We're starting at the top of page 16 with Pushkin. And with a sword he clove my breast, plucked out the heart he made beat higher, and in my stricken bosom pressed, instead a coal of living fire. Pushkin. September 3rd, 1919, Poland. Dear Tova, we were fortunate that we ran into no further trouble until we reached the Polish border. At the border, though, guards came aboard. "Get off the train," a squat man ordered. His round face and red cheeks did not match the sharpness of his voice. "Get all your things out of the train. Take off your clothes. A doctor must examine you before you enter Poland." Can you imagine taking off your clothes just like that in the middle of a train yard? Tova, doctors examine you often because of your crooked back. Is this the way they treat you? I fought them. I would not take off my clothes for them. "Do as I say," the guard barked at me, "or you will be sent back, all of you." From the fierceness of his voice, I knew he would not hesitate to turn us over to the Russian police. I could not have my family returned to Berdichev because of me. I took off my clothes. I huddled beside Mama as we stood in our underwear in the waning daylight outside the boxcar. Aunt Rachel had made this underwear for me. It was white cotton and very pretty. She had made me 2 sets, but one was stolen from me as I swam in the Teterev this past summer. I thought of the things the Russians had taken from my family as I stood in the train yard, and I was angry. Why, Tova? Why is it that if a Russian peasant does not get what he wants, he feels justified in stealing it from a Jew? Papa and the boys undressed on the opposite side of the car. At least they allowed us that much privacy. Mama and I, we folded our clothes on top of our bags in the dry grass along the track. The guards picked up our clothes and our belongings and took them away, even my rucksack with Mama's candlesticks. Before I could yell to them to bring our things back, the doctor came. He growled at us. I could not understand his words, but he made it clear what he wanted. He ordered us to remove our underwear. This doctor, he stank of vomit and schnapps. His breath choked my throat, and I thought I would be sick. Mama did not seem to notice his stench. She smiled and nodded to him. Perhaps she feared he would send us back to Russia. Why else would she act so? Mama helped me to remove my underwear, shielding my body with her own. Her gold locket hung between her breasts. "Keep quiet for once, Riftka," she whispered in my ear. "Stay behind me." I covered my nakedness with my hands as best I could, but Mama, she acted as if stripping before the Polish doctor was no trouble, like we did this every day. She pretended this, I think, to protect me. The doctor examined us. He took longer with Mama. I could hardly believe this brave woman was the same who wept with her fear in your cellar last night. The doctor spent so much time with Mama, he hardly noticed me. When he did turn his attention to me, the way he looked gave me gooseflesh. Tova, you are so practical. You will say I had gooseflesh because we stood naked outside in the cold. But it was not the cold that caused me to shiver. At this point, I want you to, on a sticky, write down your reaction to this scene. What are your feelings? Try to imagine what this would be like, what it would be like if this were you. And then I also want you to make a note of Mama's strength here in this scene and how her mother's instinct helped her to act. We're at the top of page 19. The doctor made me feel dirty. He looked in my eyes and my mouth and my hair. "Are you sick?" he asked me in Russian. I kept my eyes down. I could not stand to look at him. I stared instead at my toes, curled tight in the stones at the edge of the tracks. I prayed the doctor would just go away. He yelled at me something in Polish. Mama spoke with him. Then she took my hand and led me to a small building. In the building, a woman sprayed us with something vile. It burned my skin and my scalp, my nose, and my eyes. Finally, the Polish guards allowed us back onto the train. They returned our clothes to us and our bags, stinking of fumigation. My eyes watered from the stench of it. That was not the worst, though. When I lifted my rucksack, It was not as heavy as it had been before. I searched the entire bag, emptying it out on the floor of the train, but Mama's candlesticks were gone. So they stole our candlesticks, Mama said. It could be worse, Riftka, much worse. Stop sniffling and finish getting dressed. We pulled our clothes back on before Papa and Nathan and Saul joined us. Mama sighed with relief as they climbed into the car. I turned away from their nakedness. How could the Poles do this to my papa, to my brothers? How could the Poles do this to me? The train started moving before Papa and the boys finished dressing. That is how we entered Poland. I have never been in another country before, not even in another village. You know how the Russians kept us, Tova? Like prisoners, never permitting us to travel. Russia has not been so bad for you. With money, Russia can be very good, even for a Jew. For us, it was a prison. Poland does not look that different from Berdichev. The same crooked cottages, the same patchy roads, the same bony fences leaning into the dust. Looking out of the train, we see people dressed like us in browns and blacks, people wrapped in layers of clothes. The women bundle their heads in kerchiefs, the men shuffle along in ankle coats and boots. Will it be like this in America too? I will stop writing for now. My head throbs and my body aches from all that has happened. Shalom, my cousin, Riftka. So at this point, I want you to note how Mama says to Riftka, it could be worse. It could have been so much worse. And when we read this, we kind of may think, how could it be worse? But I want you to think for a moment of the realities of this situation. And how could this situation have been worse? And how did their strength help to make even that horrible situation better? So I want to note, just kind of jot down your thoughts on that. We're at the top of page 21. Casual gift, O gift unitile. Life, why wert thou give it to me? Why should fate thus grant us futile terms of doomed mortality? Pushkin. Okay, there's a lot of words in this particular poem that are complex. So there's 3 that I want you to look up on the internet. Unitile, fate, and mortality. And then on a sticky note, I want you to write what maybe you think this means that Pushkin is trying to say. October 5th, 1919. Matzew, Poland. Dear Tova, I thought we would be in America by now, but we remain in Poland, stranded by illness. The sickness began with me. My legs and head started aching shortly after we crossed the Polish border. I told Papa, I'm tired. That spray has made me sick. By the time we arrived in Matzew, my head pounded and my body hurt as if the train had run over me. I wanted only to rest. The motion of the train tormented me. I begged Papa for us to stop. Mama and Papa took me off the train in Matzew. I did not know Papa had a cousin here. Did you, Tova? Papa's cousin did not have room for us, but he took us in anyway. I don't remember very well what happened the first few weeks in Matzew. We slept on the floor in the shed of my father's cousin. I had dreams, terrible dreams about the guards in the train station and Cossacks and entire forests chasing after me. Such nightmares. I could not move at all. I felt imprisoned under a mound of stones. I remember Papa, down on the floor beside me, putting a damp cloth on my head. Papa is so good at nursing, but each time he placed the cloth over my eyes, I felt the weight of it crushing my head into the floor. I tried to pull away from him, but whenever I moved, the pain exploded inside me. I begged Papa to stop, but the words would not come out. I could hardly draw a breath. There was such a heaviness on my chest. Saul says a student of medicine came to examine me. Papa had found a student to come who spoke Russian. By then a rash had crept under my armpits and across my back and my stomach. I had a cough that threatened to split me in 2 each time it erupted from me. I had typhus. So at this point you are welcome to look up typhus. briefly and see, what are some of the symptoms, and you might take a note of what do you think, or I would like you to take a note of what do you think getting typhus in this kind of situation means for the family. What are the possible consequences of that? The medical student said her infection started in Russia. Someone she had contact with there gave this to her. I wanted to tell the skinny, pock-faced man that he was wrong, that my illness did not come from Russia. I knew where it started. It came from the doctor at the Polish border. I tried to explain this to the man, but I could not speak. You must say nothing about the nature of her illness to anyone, the medical student told Papa, not even your cousin. As for the child, she will probably die. Most do. That's how it goes with typhus. I remember very little, Tova, but I do remember that. Those words cut through the fever and the pain. When I heard them, I wished I could die. If I died, I would be free of my suffering. But if I died, I would never reach America. I remember Mama crying. I tried to speak, to say I would not die, that nothing could hold me back from America, but she couldn't hear me. No one could hear me. I should send you all back to Russia, the medical student said, but the child would never survive the trip. Papa begged him to let us stay. I promise to care for her, he said. This book is written in Rifka's perspective. But we get hints of how the parents feel about their children through her observing what they do. And so I want you to take a note of how important it is for the family to leave and what Rifka's illness is going to mean for their travel. The medical student agreed. I lapsed into sleep on the floor in the miserable little shed while the typhus raged inside me. Meanwhile, Mama and Papa and Nathan grew sick. They developed the typhus too. Only Saul managed to stay healthy. Saul is too much of an ox to get sick, Tova. 3 men took Mama and Papa and Nathan in a cart to a hospital at the other end of Matsev. I wept to see them go. I was still so sick, but I wept to see them. As they carried Papa out and loaded him into the cart beside Mama, I thought my life was over. Take me too, I cried, but I had improved compared to Mama and Papa and Nathan. Matsev is full of typhus, the cart driver said. We need the beds for the dying. They left me with Saul, of all people, Saul, who never has a kind word for me, Saul, who pulls my hair and punches me, even though Mama says at 16 he should know better. Saul, with his big ears and his big feet, was all I had for a nurse. It was a wonder I did not die from the typhus. When Saul remembered, he held water to my lips so I could drink. In my dreams and when I woke, I fretted over Mama and Papa and Nathan. Were they already dead? Where is Mama? I asked each time I woke from a restless fever sleep. Where is Papa? Saul turned his face away. He could not stand the smell of me. I could tell by the way his mouth tightened. Go back to sleep, Riftka, he said. He always said the same. Go back to sleep. Once I woke to find Saul kneeling beside me, holding my hands down. His dark hair curled wildly around his ears. What are you doing to yourself? He kept asking. I had been dreaming about Mama's candlesticks. I was holding them against my chest. Dozens of hands reached out of the darkness to take them from me. I tore at the hands, trying to get them off of me, trying to get them off Mama's candlesticks. Look what you've done to yourself, Saul said, touching the tail of his shirt to my chest. In my sleep, I had clawed at my chest until it bled. Tova, my hand is too weak to continue, and my eyes blur at these tiny letters. But I will write again soon. Shalom, Riftka. Okay, so at this point, we get a sense about how Riftka feels about her youngest brother, Saul. On a sticky note, I want you to write down how old is Saul and talk about some of the things that Riftka has mentioned that makes their relationship kind of, strained. How is this a typical strained brother-sister relationship? On another sticky note, I want you to think about how hard this must be for Saul. His parents and his other brother are in the hospital, and he has to care for Riftka. So I want you to think about what it would be like to be him in this situation, because Rifka's painted him as kind of a bad guy, as her annoying, frustrating brother. So I want you to make those notes on the sticky and add any thoughts that you have in addition to that.